Saturday to you all again. I'm not going to stay too long on this video like I did with the first video, the live that I did, the streaming that I did with President Trump and the Ukraine minister or whatever his role is as to his country about the war. I'm not going to stay too long with this one. I wanted to just come back and bring you some more information about this tragic death of this black man named Telvin Boykin or something like that, and his preference. Okay, that's we're gonna use the word preference, right? And the reason why I'm talking about this is because a lot of people, not just Telvin and what happened to him, but this also has happened before with another Nigerian black man who was dating a white woman and he put her on a high pedestal and he died by the hands of the woman that took him out was his preference. So this I'm sharing this video with you from Lady Boulay. If you're familiar with her channel, I don't have the rights over her video, but I'm just gonna give her a shout out because I am sharing this video on my platform today and it's somebody else's content. But the way she broke it down about this that had occurred, this man's tragic death, Mr. Boykin, and how his family react to it, and how black women did not want to take no part of supporting on this GoFundMe to take any part in the the call for justice for him, because of the way he was so disrespectful to black women. Not what he did, but what his family did, as far as like how they asked for help from the public to support their fight for justice because they felt this woman wasn't going to be charged for murder. Okay, that she was just going to walk free and no repercussions, no nothing, no punishment, no nothing that she was going to face because of the life of her black lover or her black husband or baby daddy. So we're gonna get into it. I'm let Miss Lady Boulay tell you about it if you want. You can go listen to her video. I'm sharing the video here on my platform. So you can hear more about what took place here. Okay. I don't see anybody here yet, but I'm just gonna go right ahead because a lot of people probably just like, hey, we tired of you, Miss Casey. You come on here back to back. But I just wanted to share something I spoke about earlier this week on the life of Mr. Telvin Bourkin, this black man who had his preference as a white woman, and how she unalived him. And they went out drinking, partying, whatever. Came back, and she went and got the gun that to protect their home or whatever they lived at. They live somewhere out in Georgia. So I don't know if they live in a very high crime area where there's a lot of things that's going on and they felt they had needed a gun to protect their home and their property, their family, or whatever. So let's get into the video.
Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a lovely day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So there's another case of a black man being in an interracial relationship and it going very badly for him. This is a case out of Burke County, Georgia, near the town of Waynesboro on the eastern coast of Georgia near South Carolina. This is a young man, in case you haven't heard, involved with a white woman, and they have two children together. I don't think they were married, but they were living somewhere in this town outside of Waynesboro, Georgia, in a trailer park, and they went out partying I believe it was Saturday night or last Saturday night, came back home drunk, apparently had an altercation. She pulled out their protection piece, and that was the end of him. This case is very similar to the one that came out of Florida a few years ago with the Nigerian man with a white woman. They're in a relationship where she was the best thing since sliced bread. They were happy. Everybody thought they were happy, but there was trouble in paradise. She was not as happy with him as he was with her.
Thank you. Now, I'm glad she was able. This is why I wanted to share her video, Miss Lady Boulay. Shout out to you. Is because she's talking on two men who had the same preferences as far as the woman that they preferred to date and the woman they prefer to kind of have children with. And I mean, first of all, women they should be married to. If this is your preference, you marry them, you give them a good life, y'all build together, y'all raise a family together, and so on and so on. Now, I don't know about the Nigerian black man. If he was married to the woman, because he said this was the best thing that happened to him since grade school, whatever, that he was able to, not only date outside of his own, not only just date women of from his Nigerian culture, but black women across the board. I don't know his experience with women. As we go into the video, maybe Miss Boulay can tell you that. But I'm just came across her video and I listened to it for half a minute or whatever to this point, and I said this would be interesting for me to share here on my platform about these two different men. But the Nigerian family, she's going to get into it, why she wanted to compare and contrast the both of them, because it doesn't have anything to do with the both of them, but the way your grieving relatives and friends and your loved ones will feel about your life and everything, and they go out there and they have to get help from the public whenever something like this happens. Somebody takes the life of your loved one and you want justice, and it seems that the person ain't being held accountable for their crime. Of course, I don't care what my brother, how bad he was about women and treating women and doing whatever he did. The last thing I would want to do is have my brother being killed and slain by someone and there's no justice for his life, because nobody has a right to take anybody's life. That is in the biblical laws, and only person is responsible to either choose whether you should continue to live or die should be God. Nobody has a right to take your life. Regardless of how bad that person has been to you, your best bet is to get away as far as away from them and just do nothing with them whatsoever. But let God handle it on the way He gonna handle it. And we have no right to take a life. We not here supporting murder. I don't support murder in no kind of way on this platform. I'm not for, you know, violence and guns and things of crime whatsoever towards women, towards men, towards any children. I'm just going to leave that out there as a disclaimer. I'm just saying here is that this video is about a compare and contrast of two men who were killed violently by their preferences, and how one cried to the public for justice and how the other respond to the public for justice of their loved one. So let's go into the video again.
It turned out the whole thing blows up and he's on the floor fighting for his life, which he lost. There are some similarities in these cases. Both of these are men of African descent with white women who consider the prize of all women, and they've elevated these women, pedestalized these women on their social media platforms as they berated and degraded black women. Now, the Nigerian guy's tweets were bad enough, but this Black American man's tweets were worse. He went in on Black women, and I mean, for no apparent reason. Nobody even knows what kind of relationship he's ever had with Black women. I know he has a Black mother, but nobody even knows the basis of that. But they both went in heavily against the Black women, making every kind of derogatory remark you could make about Black women, even as they put these white women on a pedestal. And both of their lives came to an end at the hands of their chosen white woman, their preference. Now, in the case of the Nigerian man, upon his demise, his family was very dignified. They were obviously in mourning. They grieved over their family member, but they came to the public the right way. They were sincere in asking the community to be concerned because they were trying to get to the bottom of what had happened to their family member. And in any case like that, it helps when the public gets involved. So his family struck the right chord with people. And even though Black women said this is not our fight, they still did it the right way. I was moved by their grief. They did a press conference with their lawyers. They explained what had happened, very dignified. Now, the same cannot be said for this Black American family, I hate to say. They came out swinging when the paperwork came in on Telvin Osborne that he had been making all of these derogatory.
Thank you. I gave him a different name. I said Boy Kim. His name is Osborne. She just said Telvin Osborne. You could go and research it yourself about his untimely death and his tragic death, how his wife unalived him. So I wanted to make a correction in this video with the name. His name is Telvin Osborne. Back to the video.
Demeaning and just really vile statements about Black women. Black women pulled back and said, "You're on your own. This is not our fight." Well, instead of them behaving in a dignified manner, his family members handled it all wrong as far as I'm concerned. One of his family members took to social media and said he understood why this guy didn't date Black women because Black women didn't give the response that he wanted. So he understood why he didn't date Black women, as if who he dated was something of real importance. Most people wouldn't even know who he dated if he didn't tell, because he was not a prize package in the eyes of many Black women. He's not what you would call in the top 10 of most desirable Black men in America. So nobody knew who his preference was. And nobody would have known if he hadn't said it. But once he said it, then he brought Black women into the conversation. So these two men, through their arrogance, their foolishness, and their dysfunction, put their families in very difficult positions. In both cases, law enforcement was reluctant to arrest the women. And then the families started saying it was white privilege. It was because those women were white. But we have to keep in mind, those men liked those women in the first place because they were white. And they pedestalized them because they were white. And they elevated them over Black women because they were white. So I don't think that their whiteness should even enter into the equation. It just needs to go on facts, what happened. Now, that's just my opinion. So there are 2 points that I want to make before I end this video. Number one, white women need to recognize red flags in Black men, because this is coming up often enough that I think that white women need to be warned about these kind of men. When you're dating a man and he hates the women of his race more than he does anybody else, not
That's
only
a red
that,
flag right
but
there.
he centers his anger, because this man had anger issues. He centers his anger in the women of his race, or he centers his anger in something or somebody else. That's a red flag. There are white women who will take to social media and say that they will not date a Black man who doesn't date Black women or who is constantly berating Black women, because those white women realize that is a problem, and that will be a problem in that relationship.
That's the way I feel. If you got to sit around, if you have a preference to date someone outside of your race, it's okay to be with somebody. To me, it's okay if that's your preference. Everybody date whoever you know you feel like, hey, I'm more attracted to these kind of groups of people or whatever. This is my preference, but I don't have anything wrong with what other people do as far as like I don't have any issues with my people. I still love my people. You know what I'm saying? But it's just my preference of who I want to be around or who I want to spend my life with or build a life with or raise family, whatever. It should never be any disrespect or make people feel inferior and putting somebody else on the, on a pedestal as far as who you date or who you with. It's the same thing as in the black community when a sister dates a light skinned brother because she doesn't care to date dark skinned brothers. Same thing with some brothers. They prefer to date they prefer a type black woman who has more finer hair. Their skin tone is much more lighter. They melons are not as dark as my melons may be or whatever. So there's some people, everybody has a preference. And that's okay to have a preference. But it's not good to be disrespectful and to say derogatory things or degrade people and put your own people in a bad, put them down. And like she said, I'm glad she's trying to speak to the white women in her audience that do these things that will go out there and there's a red flag and it says danger. When you hear the conversation coming out of their mouth and they sitting there belittling and downgrading their own type, their own woman. If they doing that to their own woman, how good are they going to be to you? Because to love your own is also showing love for yourself and dignity for yourself. But when you go around and degrading your people, insulting your people, you could correct your people. Yeah, there's a way of correcting each other without all the other nasty things that was said that this man has done. And he died by the hands of his preference. The white woman he had because and then was just some black men that just want to date sometimes out of their race because they know that we know who they are and we know the stuff that we're just not going to put up with and some things we just not going to take. And then there's some white women out there that just been through it all, dating their own kind and they want to try something different. And somebody come along at that moment of their life and make them feel like they feel special and good and they are beautiful and they are loved and they are queen and all that other stuff and it just like overtakes them and then they find themselves so far deeply in it and they don't recognize that this person is talking badly about their own kind of people. You seem to throw all of that because all you want to think about is all the good they said about you, not knowing that even though they saying that about that person, that could be you next in another kind of way. But anyway, let's go.
Relationship. It is dysfunctional for you to be in a relationship with a white woman and have your teeth in the black woman's back all the time, especially people who are not even aware that you're alive. You got this imaginary black woman in your head that you can't get out of your head, and you're in a relationship with a white woman. That's a sign right there that you need to get that black woman out of your head. You might need to go to some kind of therapy. That is unhealthy. So the white woman or the Asian woman or the Hispanic woman that gets involved with a black man like that needs to know from the start, this relationship is not going to end well. And I'm going to say this, and I don't know what happened between that woman and that man, but the police are saying that there was an altercation. I'm going to say that that woman didn't just all of a sudden take up a weapon and decide to end that man's life. Something happened. So even though he's out there singing the praises of this white woman, only the white woman that was living in that house with him knows what he was really like. And she has a story to tell too. She has been arrested and charged with involuntary manslaughter, and that carries 1 to 10 years in Georgia. So it's very possible that she might get off very lightly, if not altogether. And you can call it white privilege if you want to, but it was always white privilege because she's been white all the time. Now, I'm not trying to diagnose anybody's case, but I just know it's something wrong with you when you go around with hatred in your heart for somebody who's not even thinking about you. That is not healthy, and that is a disorder that needs to be diagnosed by a professional. And the last thing I want to say is I have two friends that are psychologists, and one of them is adamant that there is undiagnosed mental illness in the Black American community.
Yes, it is.
And we don't like to talk about it. We don't like to talk about mental illness because that's taboo in the Black American community. But there is undiagnosed mental illness in our community. And one of the main things that we're going to have to work on as a race is self-hatred. Because if you hate Black women that much and you are a Black person, what does it say about you? Because no matter how many white people you get involved with, they cannot erase your Blackness. They can't.
I just said that. You got to learn how to love you first before you can love anybody else out in the world. You got to live it. You know what I'm saying? You got to live in this world. You have to learn how to work yourself around the things that seem to things you cannot change. And one thing you cannot change is the color of your skin. And that's who God placed you in his work. I mean, when he procreated you and he made you come through this race of people, he gave everybody their own. He gave us all fairly. Our God is that good. But until you learn how to love who you are, you can't love and other people, then other people are not going to show, you're not going to receive genuine love from anybody else until you learn how to embrace the beauty of who you are and how God created you in his own image, in his own image, because God's creation is in all of us, in the human race. That's God's creation. He created the animals for their kingdom and for the places where they live and for how they're going to live to survive or whatever. He made everything. He gave everybody the equal of everything. So you being disrespectful to God when you sit around and degrade your own people. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything Black people do in America, and especially since I've been on this thing with Jamal Bryant and his poor leadership in the community that he served, especially in the religious community. None of the things he's doing on that pulpit is of godliness in any kind of form. Total just clowning and ignorance and hatred and pumping up people's heads with all of that hatred against other people that are non-Black. I just can't stand to listen to that from the pulpit in the church, especially coming from a pastor in religious leadership. I don't like to hear nobody talk racist, and whether he's Black, white, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Indian, whoever. When you serve in the community of God's people, you're supposed to see everybody equally under the umbrella, under the love of God, what we call maybe the rainbow. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that some people just don't get it. And like this lady, Miss Lady Bouger, is going to explain to you in this video as I continue to let it go on and end. She's going to explain that from what she got from her friends who are in the work of dealing with psychology, psychiatrists, whatever, psychology or whatever, with people with suffering with some kind of unidentified mental illness. And it's okay to be honest, but it's crazy today. People minds are sick today. We had a messy government over the people that was leadership over our nation before, and a lot of people are still going through. are still going through to try to process through it all. And they just have this dislike for our new leader, and it's sickening. And it's sickening for it to be coming from the pulpit in the church. We don't need to hear all of that. Beating us up like a beating us up with that. But let's go on with this video before I get into that conversation.
So mental illness in the black community is a problem. And when a man like this carries on the way he does, we have to assume that there's something that's not quite right with that person. And the people around him, his family members, when they're always talking about black women this and black women that, or black men this and black men that, you never found a black woman that you liked. You never met a black man that you could stand. Please understand that that problem is you.
Exactly.
That problem is you, especially when you have decided to move on with another race of people, but you're still stuck in your hatred of black women or black men. That is a sign of self-hatred. That's all I gotta say. And my very last point is that there is a small group of black men on social media who are trying to shame black women because black women are saying that this is not my problem. This has nothing to do with me. You cannot shame somebody into caring about someone, especially somebody that didn't care about them. So the best thing, I guess, to do is just to not say anything. But it is social media, and people are going to talk. And when you bring your problems to social media, people are going to have their say. It is tragic when something like this happens because it doesn't just involve those two people. It involves families, extended family, friends, communities, and to a certain extent, the country, because this is a problem that can happen anywhere in the country. But as far as the black community is concerned, we still just need to be a little bit more careful about what we're saying. Choose your partners wisely, live, and let other people live. Okay, y'all, let me know what you think about the video. Thank you for listening.
I like the video, Lady Boulay. Thank you so much for sharing this with the public about this tragedy that happened to this Mr. Osborne's life. And also sorry about the woman he was with, that she actually had to get to that point in her life where she had to unalive him. And said she, the story, you could go look it up. She was cleaning her gun and the gun went off and it pow-powed him, but in the chest. So, they got her. It wasn't gonna be no real arrest made, but then it was an arrest made, and they charged her for involuntarily manslaughter. Like she said, in Georgia, they only get like a light sentence, 1 to 10 years, and she may not get nothing at all, depending on what her story is of what caused the real reason how that man was unalive. Okay. When she comes with her story, we gotta hear her story too, because there was something. No woman just gonna go pick up a gun and just shoot a man in the chest unless there was some violence involved. He had to do something. There was something that was just gotten to that point. And we see it all the time on these women that kill they spouses, they lovers, they just snap. Okay, remember the show Snap? It had to be something that just was the straw that broke the camel's back, or where the person just got enough of enough. Okay, maybe she did try to get out of the relationship several times, and he kept coming back, promising her not to do this and that and do this and that again. Maybe she was already suffering with some kind of you know, trauma in her own life and pain from her own past, as she may have been influenced because of the alcohol or whatever she might have been on, may have brought back that triggered her. We don't know. We don't know her story. Okay. We not There was already white privilege when he already put on a pedestal and said that she was the most better thing that any black woman could ever be to him. So it is what it is, y'all. But with that being said, your girl Casey McDaniel, I'm out. Shout out to Miss Lady Boulay. I just shared the video with y'all. I just thought this was important to share with the public, and also to share with my on my platform with my subscribers about this story, because I spoke about it earlier this week, a couple of days ago, and I just wanted to complete it and give you more details on it. So with that being said, God bless you, love you, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon. It's a beautiful day out here where I'm at. I don't know what it's like out there where you at, but I got to get up on out of here and run some errands. Love you, God bless you, and peace.
Give me a thumbs up and have a good evening.